Good morning. I'm Sherman Stanford, and this is Making Sense of the Chaos. Today is Thursday, and as our custom is on Mondays and Thursdays, we go over the basic framework for understanding God's world through God's eyes. There are 8 principles that we articulate each time, and we'll do that now. The first one is that God created the cosmos for His glory, not for the glory of mankind. The reason this one is first is because if you don't understand the entire framework for everything that's happening in the world as intended to glorify God, the temptation is to see this through man's eyes, as God's purpose in creation was for men, and that just is not true. And when you see it through man's eyes, it will distort everything that you think about God, everything that you think about men. It will distort your view of what's right and wrong, how we determine what's right and wrong, where ultimate authority lies, everything. You have to start with this principle. The second principle is also very important, and it helps to place in perspective what man's role is. The jewel of creation is, in fact, mankind. So that means that man is not relegated to some unimportant aspect of the creation. He is, in fact, the most important aspect of the creation. But he is a creature. And God, as the creator, is the focus of everything and his glory. What higher good can there be? What higher value can there be in the world than God's glory? Obviously, there can be nothing higher than that. And so for God to contemplate anything primarily above his own glory would be a denial of his own divinity. And to put man there, of course, would be even worse. That's what man did when man fell. That's what we do every time we sin. We put ourselves in the place of God. We determine for ourselves what's right and wrong regarding this particular occasion. We say, well, I know God says, but. And then we gently, or not so gently, push him off the throne and ascend ourselves. And we say, in this case, it is good that I should, whatever the sin may be. Why do I know that's how we do it? Well, let me guess. Maybe because I'm pretty close to a human being. Me. 3, although in no sense the author of evil, God, as the sovereign creator of all that is, the one with a single plan from beginning to end of time, he ordained Adam's fall. And I know the question is, well, then how can Adam be responsible if it was ordained by God? How is God not the author of sin? How does God not share some of the blame? I can only tell you what the Bible says. And it says that God's in charge, that Adam's sin was part of God's plan, that God is not the author of Adam's sin. Adam did this out of his own desire, but it was planned by God that Adam would do this while God remained free of sin and Adam sinned. Now, keep the categories straight. Understanding how they fit together may not be part of our role. I mean, there are things that are going to go beyond your capacity to understand. If you haven't realized that yet, you aren't very old. At my age, I certainly know that. I'm astonished every day to realize I've lived as many years as I have. It doesn't seem like that many. As my friend Earl says, in his mind, he's still 15 years old. Well, and I'm somewhere between 10 and 15 in my mind. The third principle is that in Adam, the entire creation fell. Not just Adam, not just Eve, and not just all of humanity in Adam and Eve, although they did all fall. Every human being born after Adam and Eve is born subject to the fall. That's what's called original sin. Now, but not only did all human beings fall, the creation itself fell. In Romans 8, Paul, the apostle, talks about the creation groaning in anticipation of its restoration, which had begun with Jesus' advent, life, and death and resurrection from the cross. Fifth, as a result of the fall, God pronounced a curse of enmity between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. The seed of the serpent is all of fallen humanity, all of fallen humanity, led by Satan, of course, the serpent. And the seed of the woman is Jesus Christ, who is, at this point in Genesis 3:15, prefigured as the coming Messiah, although it's in seed form only, called the Proto-Evangelion. But what's pictured here is this unending battle between the forces of good and the forces of evil. God working through his seed, the forces of good in the world, his chosen people, his elect. And I know people don't like that, but hey, it's a biblical term. God uses it. Paul uses it. It's all over the Bible. So you got a beef with that? Take it up with God. But this is a point that we have a real temptation to overlook. We want to treat everybody as our brothers and sisters, one, the brotherhood of man, the fatherhood of God. That's not true. That is not true except in the most general sense. In any sort of nuts and bolts, where the rubber meets the road sense, that is not true. Okay? Everybody that you're going to meet in your whole life is either going to be a member of the seed of the serpent or a seed of the woman. And you are one or the other as well. And so your relationship with every human being is going to be determined, as far as God is concerned, by your standing in one or the other of those seeds and the standing of every other person in one or the other of those seeds. You are not to treat them all equally. You are to love your brothers and sisters in Christ and fellowship with them in a way that you do not love the seed of the serpent. You are at enmity with the seed of the serpent. Now, that doesn't mean that you're allowed to use carnal weapons against them. No, unless they're threatening your life, of course. But otherwise, you're to love them, be gentle and kind with them. You're to present them the truth. Go into all nations, teaching them all the things I have taught you. That's the way you demonstrate your enmity against them. Through love, through kindness, through gentleness. Okay? But it is nevertheless different from the relationship you have with Christians. You cannot accord them the same status in your life as you do Christians. If you do, you violate God's order. This is known, by the way, as the great antithesis. And we covered the sixth point, which is that all subsequent human history is an outworking of this enmity. Seventh, the unregenerate, those who remain hostile to God, are without excuse. Paul tells us in Romans 1 that they know God and they suppress that truth in unrighteousness. They suppressed it their entire lives. Now, the temptation, once again, is to believe that people fail to believe in God because they just don't know enough. But God tells us that's not true. That's not why they deny Jesus. It's not because they don't know enough. They don't lack enough information. They have black, cold, hard, dead hearts. They love their sin, making them then hate God, who constrains their free sinfulness. Now, the eighth point is something that you're going to have to deal with if you're a Christian and if you're preaching the word, demonstrating the word in your life to people who are lost. The word of the cross is foolishness. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 at verse 18, to those who are perishing, the seed of the serpent, but to us, the seed of the woman, who are being saved, it is the power of God. And you can never forget that. Two things to remember there. One is, they're going to think you're an idiot when you preach the word to them. But the second thing is, it is the power of God, not only for you, to save you, but to save them, even the very people who are thinking and acting as if you're a moron. This same word is the only hope they have. If you fail to preach it because you don't want to be made to feel like a moron, that is not a loving thing to do for that other person. If he hates your preaching this word to him, you still must do so. Now, you must do so in such a way that you yourself are not the offense. It's the word that's the offense. And you mustn't push it on him to where he is unwilling to listen. He's not going to be willing to listen anyway. So you got to figure out what are your opportunities and take advantage when they appear. But you can't just in cowardice refuse to preach it because you know they don't like it and they're going to treat you like a dummy. They will treat you like a dummy and they won't like it. Okay. Currently we're discussing eschatology, which is the study of the last things, the end times. And I'm not sure why so many people are so fascinated by it, except I think it's essentially an urge to watch the clock. If you're doing a hard job of work at your employment, maybe in the afternoon you're getting a little tired, and you start looking at the clock to see, well, how much time do you have left? Well, I believe that's pretty much why we're interested in eschatology, because we're looking for our chestnuts to be rescued from the fire. We're looking for Jesus Christ to return and sweep us out of this battle and win the battle for us. But is that the picture that the Bible presents? I contend that no, it's not. Now, we've discussed amillennialism, which is the view that there is no 1,000-year literal period when Jesus rules and reigns on earth. We've discussed historic premillennialism, not very much, but a little bit, just in general. We've discussed dispensational premillennialism. I've showed you where each of these positions fails, and now we're discussing the historical climate in which dispensational premillennialism arose and became accepted and spread like wildfire within Christianity. Why? What were the reasons for it? Well, essentially, my contention is that it was an act of cowardice. It was a response to what seemed the unstoppable force of rationalism through the Enlightenment, through modernism, through rationalistic scholarship, scientific naturalism, all of these things that were growing and developing at the same time, and seemed to have Christianity on the run. And certainly the leading Christian thinkers, the leading Christian learning centers, universities, seminaries, they were on the run. They were abandoning Christianity like rats on a ship, a sinking ship. Though Christianity wasn't sinking at all. It was really a lack of faith. And so that's where we are at this point. Now we're going to discuss a few other points and conclude our discussion of dispensational premillennialism, which we may not finish today, but we almost certainly will tomorrow. Science has moved from a creaturely reverent study of God's world for the purpose of understanding the ways in which his cosmos functions to an arrogant scientism based on rationalism that excludes God from his own creation, so-called scientific naturalism. Now, what's the difference between science and scientism? Well, science is simply the process of empirically studying things, recording them, and drawing conclusions from the things that you observe. Okay? Scientism is the belief that science can lead us into all truth. Rationality is the use of your mind and the laws of reason in order to understand the world around you. Ideas. Rationalism is the idea that your rationality is the source of all truth for yourself. Okay? Essentially, what both of these do is they replace man and his thinking, man and his actions in science and in thinking, with God's ultimate authority as the truth maker, the source of truth, and the way to truth. Just as one can observe in athletic contests When momentum is lost, it is not easily regained. And if you've ever played sports, and I'm sure many of you have, you know that momentum is a real factor in contests of any kind. And this great enmity between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman is a contest. It's a titanic contest, worldwide, global, epic, call it what you'd like. But you need to see that's what's going on. And that just as in a microcosm, that is a contest between you and one other person in a wrestling match, for instance, or between your team and another team, momentum, once it's gained, is very hard to turn around. What is true in a microcosm, such as an athletic contest, is enormously amplified when the combatants are the two great divisions of humanity, the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. As the side with the upper hand gains confidence, guess what happens to the other side? It loses confidence. So one side is gaining confidence, one side is losing confidence. One balloon is getting bigger, one balloon is shrinking. Now, there's a point beyond which that balloon that keeps getting bigger will burst, and there's a point where the other balloon will finally start reinflating. That's true. That's the ebb and flow that you find in every contest. And it's the ebb and flow that we've seen in the world between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman since the beginning of time. And it's what we need to understand as we look at the scene today. Even though the seed of the serpent appears to be winning on every front, that is an illusion. The seed of the woman, we, the church, God's own people, we're losing. Part of the reason we're losing, don't you think, is because we're looking to be wafted out of the world, rescued by Jesus Christ, instead of seeing ourselves as soldiers who are supposed to strap on our battle gear, the breastplate of righteousness, the sword of truth, the helmet of salvation. How's that? Doing pretty good, huh? And we're supposed to go to battle every day. Do those metaphors suggest that the purpose of Christians is to escape the battle when he tells us to gird ourselves for battle? He says we're more than conquerors. He doesn't say we're less than conquerors. He doesn't say, look, hey, we're gonna be rescued by Jesus. He says we're more than conquerors and no one can separate us. I mean, he's painting a picture of us as victorious. And we're seeing ourselves as vanquished, not victorious. We're seeing ourselves as waiting for Jesus to come back. Where's the cavalry? Where's the cavalry? Oh, well, where's Jesus? Please, Jesus, please rescue me from this evil world. No, you're the soldiers that he sent down here to fight the battle. You're the troops coming to the rescue. Supposed to be. And you keep looking over your shoulder. Yo, hey, where's Jesus? Come on. No, he's in you. He has promised that he's told you that he has all authority and power in heaven and earth, and he will be with you until the judgment day. So he says, go out and fight this battle. Well, no, he doesn't say that. He says, go out and teach them everything I taught you. Well, yes, that is the battle, isn't it? What's the battle? To go hit him over the head? No. What do? We're supposed to be proselytizing. How do you do that? Well, you arm yourself with the sword of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, and you go out and you teach them the truth by the sword that you wield. No? Yes. That's the figure that we're given. That's the picture. Anyway, as the side with the upper hand gains confidence, it becomes more aggressive, and unless the other side matches its aggressiveness and energy level, the rout is on. If you've ever coached, you understand that. When you see your team starting to sag, you better call a timeout, and you better do what you can to get them focused on what their plan is, because all they can see is the other side winning. And so that's what we need to do now. We need to focus on our plan, all right? I practiced law for 42 years, and many times my clients would ask me, well, what do you think the other side is going to do about this? What do you think the other side is going to do about that? And almost invariably, My response was, listen, I really am not concerned very much with what the other side is going to do. I'm focusing on our plan. If we do our plan properly, we'll be all right. I don't need to worry about what the other side is going to do. If we do what we're supposed to do, we'll be fine. We have justice on our side. I believe in your case. You believe in your case. We're telling the truth. We're asking for justice. We're trusting God to give us justice. If we prepare ourselves properly in presenting the truth, in arguing for justice based upon that truth, we'll be fine. And it's the same thing in our battle in the world. And we usually were fine. What else were we going to do that was going to be better? How do I anticipate every possible thing the other side's going to do? Well, I'll tell you, I can't. I'm not nearly smart enough to do that. And I didn't waste much energy trying to do that. Now, the obvious things, of course, we prepare for. But after you prepare for the obvious things, if you start worrying about what the other side's going to do, there's no end to that. And so you're constantly imagining that they could do this and they could do that. And then you get into the courtroom and you find out they're men like you are. They put their pants on one leg at a time, except on special days when I do it with two legs at a time. Just teasing. I jump into my pants. Don't you? But no, the other side makes mistakes. They overlook perfectly good opportunities to knock you on your butt, just as you overlook opportunities to knock them on their butt. We're all human beings. We're doing the best we can. So focus on what you're supposed to be doing. But remember, first of all, you're the one with the sword of truth in your hand. You use it. Don't wait for Jesus to come. He's in your hand. The sword of truth. Who is the truth? Jesus. Don't wait for him to come in some spectacular way on the clouds to rescue you. You hold the truth in your hand. Use it. The 19th century response of the fundamentalist portion of the seed of the woman to the swelling strength of the unregenerate seed, which had been caused by the loss of resolve, aggressiveness, and commitment by that very same seed of the woman, was figuratively to curl up into a ball and hope the other side would go away. Just go away. Just go away. Really? Really? Isn't that what they did? I don't want to talk about this. They retreated from the conflict to which they had been called by God into intellectual ghettos. Ghettos? What's a ghetto? Well, we think of ghettos as where poor people go, but that's not what the word means. The word means a group of people who isolate themselves from the rest of the world in one small community. That's what the word really means. Now, of course, when we have the poor all in one small community, it's a ghetto. But the ghetto does not necessarily mean poor people. It just means a certain group of people who has removed themselves from the world. That's a ghetto mentality, all right? Now, we tend to think of it as a poor folk mentality today, but that's a later addition to the meaning of the word, okay? And they conceded the battleground to the enemy, the seed of the serpent. Specifically, their theological retreat was marked by a hastening descent into Arminianism, which is incipient humanism. Now, why do I say that? What is Arminianism? It's the belief that men in their fallen condition have the power to come to God and ask for salvation. The power of faith in themselves instead of it being a gift from God. This makes men the sovereigns at the hinge point of God's salvation plan. Jesus Christ did all he can, we're told by Arminians. And he's waiting at the door, knocking. But it's up to you to open the door. It's up to you to invite him into your heart. It's up to you. Now you see there's some plausibility there. It's the devil's old trick. He presents part of the truth as all of the truth. And it becomes scarcely any part of the truth at all. Do you understand that? Now, Jesus didn't do all he can and now he's passively waiting. God hasn't done all he can in passively waiting. God is the one who sovereignly redeems his elect. Now, who are they? Well, I don't know. And you don't know. So we tell everybody the truth. But we always remember that the glory and the praise for our salvation never goes to men. Because men are the passive recipients of God's grace. We do not initiate God's gracious response to anything we do. That would be works. And Paul tells us we do not do that. Okay? But once you open the door for humanism, and that's humanism, when you make man and his will the central point of God's salvation plan, man's own sovereign will is the central point of God's salvation plan? Really? Really? So man's pride, which was the source of every problem that we have in the world today, is the answer to every problem we have in the world today. We will appeal to man's pride. You have the power. Jesus is like a gentleman. He's at the door, he's knocking, but he won't force himself in. But you, as the all-powerful, sovereign over your own soul, you can make a decision for Christ. That's what they're saying. And that's what I say is one of the two most serious problems that has caused the church to end up where it is today. The other, of course, is dispensational premillennialism, the flight mentality, the cowardly escape from the rigors of the battle. Anyway, so it's marked by two things. I said Arminianism, which is incipient humanism, and the eschatological escape into dispensational premillennialism. Although at the same time there seemed little alternative. Now remember, liberal Christianity has fled. All the brightest and the best of the Christians, all the universities that teach Christian theology, not all of them, but I mean the bulk of them, they have shown the white feather. They have abandoned Christianity. They have fled to rationalism and modernism. And so now you have these fundamentalist Christians who are left on their own. I mean, whoa, what are we supposed to do? These guys are our warriors. They're supposed to fight for us, and they've run. What are we supposed to do? I'm not blaming the individual Christians who reacted that way. I probably would have reacted that badly or worse. I am, however, saying that in hindsight, it's clear what really happened. And that's what we got to call a spade, and we have. Why? Because if we don't do that, we won't recognize what's going on in our own lives, and we'll justify our own cowardice, our own flight from the rigors of battle, the dangers of battle, the difficulty of battle. Battle is hard. Listen, I'm the most non-confrontative person I know. You say, what? Well, I am. Ask Bill. Bill, am I naturally a confrontative person?
You told me to say that, yeah.
Isn't he good? He knows I'm going to whoop him if he doesn't. Bill weighs what? What, Bill? 80, 90 pounds more than me?
Yeah.
And he's 22 years younger than me. I don't want to get in a fight with Bill. I promise you. But he's a good guy. He never threatens me in any way. So don't even think that. Although at the time there seemed little alternative, in retrospect, this is what I think. And I think this is true. This is harsh, but the truth is often very, very harsh, and we're nasty, sinful creatures, all of us. It was a shameful showing of the white feather, a mass example of cowardice and desertion in the face of the enemy. Part of the concession by the seed of the woman in her shameful retreat was her eager acceptance of the philosopher Immanuel Kant's radical division of reality between practical truth, which includes the knowledge of God, but is not subject to cognition, and noumenal truth, truth dealing with the sensible world. I'm going to have to spend a little time talking about this because it's not that it's so complicated, it's just that we're not used to thinking in these terms. Immanuel Kant was a Christian, and he was a Christian philosopher. And he was a very good philosopher. And he was a good Christian. But he was trying to somehow find a place for Christianity in a rational world. But not just a rational world, a rationalistic world. And he didn't recognize that, and many people at that time did not recognize that they had extended rationality to rationalism. That is, they weren't just using their minds to find truth, they were regarding their minds as the absolute authority for determining and authenticating every truth claim. It isn't. God is. But that was the air that he breathed. Okay? And it was also the air everyone else was breathing. And so he's trying to find a way to rescue Christianity from the assault of rationalism, because rationalism had Christianity on the run. So he comes up with this idea that you've got practical truth, like religion, morals, stuff that we just know. We just know. But it's not subject to cognition. That is, you can't sit down and reason your way to it. You just know. Okay? And then we have noumenal truth, the truth about the phenomenal world in which we live, the world of things, and those things we can know. And the way that we know them is through our minds. We can reason to them. Okay? We can use empiricism to come to understanding better and better. But you can't do that with these practical truths. And he intended a good thing, but it turned out very badly for Christianity. I see we've reached the end of our time, and we'll pick up at this point tomorrow. This is really, for me, this is a really fascinating subject because it explains so much of what you see in the world today. Now, maybe it doesn't fascinate you as much as it does me. And that probably is true. It's a good thing that God doesn't make everybody just exactly alike. If everybody was like me, we would spend all our time talking about ideas and we wouldn't get anything done. I forgot to eat 3 meals today. I didn't eat at all. We were so busy thinking and talking. Well, anyway, I hope you have a great day. Bill, would you like to add anything? He did shake his fist at me, but he said no. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Bill's a good guy. He's a terrific guy. And I really appreciate having him here. Remember, there are worse things than dying, and the worst of all is being unfaithful to God. I pray that he bless you this day as every day, and we will see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning. God bless you.